Hi, I'm Valerie Engelhart, and this is my first painting for 2026, and I am so excited to get started. I am dedicating this painting to my dear dad, who has a connection with cardinals. And my sister-in-law, for Christmas, got him a brand new bit of cardinal memorabilia, and I realized I wasn't in on that. And I really wanted to be a part of such importance to my dad. So, this is for you, Dad. I know you watch these, and I love you very much. So, on with the painting. You saw me using my fingers to measure out what I thought was going to be the entire body of the bird. Because I paint without a preliminary sketch, a starting point can be a little difficult. If I paint too small, it's fine, but if I paint too big, then the cardinal's going to be going off the page, and I don't want that. And this is just going to be a one-wash atmospheric study. I pulled out my palette because it had the colors I knew I would need, and I'm using a size 8 round silver black velvet brush, my favorite workhorse, and I'm just working on a pad of 140-pound cotton watercolor paper, and I think this is called Academy watercolor. This is not a very expensive paper, but it works really well for studies. The color for the beak is Daniel Smith Aussie Red Gold, and right now I am working in Daniel Smith Cadmium Red Hue. And so I started by putting in the beak, and then using a damp brush to lift out some of the highlights, and then I dotted in a little bit of that cadmium red to give it some color harmony with the body of the cardinal. And then cardinals have that iconic, pointed head where their little feathers go up, and so I painted that first. And because I've got my paper on an angle, it allows the water to flow downwards with gravity. And because I want this to be loose and atmospheric, I painted some outlines and then just went in with clean water so that it's really transparent and airy, and so that you can see that paper shining through the color. Now, the hard part for me on this whole painting is I wanted to keep this super loose, and I wanted to leave out details. Like if you see a really basic illustration of a cardinal, there doesn't even have to be an eye there. As long as it's red and has that little pointed head, it's pretty obvious it's a cardinal. And so I went in with that mindset of I want to put in as little information as I can while still painting what I thought was an acceptable painting. Right now I'm going in with Daniel Smith Permanent Alizarin Crimson because I wanted to have a little more dimension to my red. All of the colors that I'm using so far are single pigment colors. I often like to use colors with multiple pigments in them because then when you add water, they split, you get variations, but we're not going to get that with these. So I want to add variation by popping in warmer colors or cooler colors and letting them fuse and merge. And one thing that's a little different about this video compared to others is I am leaving this one in real time. That's right, every brush stroke I make, nothing is sped up. You get to see how I handle things, what decisions I make as I go, and how, because I don't have a sketch, I need to be confident about my marks. And that confidence comes with practice, just lots of practice. Now already, just from the shape, we can see it's a bird. We can recognize that it is a red bird. Now it doesn't have the exact features that make it a cardinal, that iconic, oh, I don't want to say it. It's black feathers. It's got those lovely black feathers around its face. Right now I'm dropping in a little more of that Aussie Red Gold just to add some warmth and a little more color variation to the body of the bird. Now, one thing I noticed is that I don't know if my paint has gotten dirty or if there's something else wrong. I'm gonna have to do some Google searching, but if you know the answer, please put it in the comments below, because as I was painting, especially with my Aussie Red Gold, I was noticing that there was sediment. There's like little blocks that wouldn't dissolve. And I didn't really like that. If I were painting a very serious piece, that would have really put me off. But this is a study, so I just shrugged my shoulders and made a note not to use that if I'm going to do a big serious painting. So in my palette, I do have a bit of a black pigment. I think that one is the Holbein Peach Black, but it could also be Daniel Smith Lunar Black. And I don't know which. I'd have to paint a swatch to know. And I usually don't want to have black in my palette. It's just I had a lot of extra pigment and I didn't want to waste it, so I shoved it in there. But while that painting is still wet, I went and dotted in that dark pigment. And now it is very obviously a cardinal. And now, even though I did say once it became a cardinal, I wanted to stop, it's me, I don't do that. But I still wanted this to be, even though it's a study, I wanted this to be something I'd be proud to show off. And so I am still working on it to give some dimension to the flight feathers. I mixed in just a touch of my Daniel Smith Burnt Sienna in with the black that was already on my palette, because the feathers on the wing were a little more brown, but I didn't want to pull in just brown, and because there was the black all around the beak, I wanted that black to be elsewhere. So I'm just dotting that in. But I'm careful, I don't want to put color everywhere and be distracting. I still want this to be a light, airy study. I flicked my brush there for a second. I was deciding if I wanted to add the feet. Spoiler alert, the answer is no. I did not want to do that, and I'm glad that I made that decision. And this whole thing is done with one brush, just this size 8 round brush. It is, as I said earlier, a workhorse. I recommend a round brush with a nice fine pointed tip. So what I've done here is my bird is still damp, so I just am wetting the area around it, softening a couple of edges and letting it bleed into the background. That way it's not so just like cut out and just sitting in a white void. But I am pulling the same colors. I don't want to start introducing new colors at this point. And this is part of what makes a painting atmospheric, is having that color harmony of pulling colors that are either, if you started with your background, pulling that background into the subject. I started with my subject, so pulling some of my subject into the background. And on the belly of the bird, notice how I did leave some white gaps. What I did there was trap the light. Now, a lot of the cardinal was too dry when I started bleeding this away, so over time, as it's damp, I am going to continue to add little splashes of the cadmium red and the Aussie red gold. And I do want this to be loose and drippy. I don't want extreme, almost illustrative drips, but a few drips, definitely feeling that, totally wanting that. Cleaning up that line. Now I've got a clean and damp brush. I dried it off on my paper towel, and I'm just lifting a couple strokes around the wing to give a little more dimension. But I don't want to do a lot, just a few confident strokes and leave it alone. A nice thing about painting this time of year is, with it being cold, and I live in the Pacific Northwest, specifically along Puget Sound, so I don't have to worry as much about dry climates. So my paintings stay wet longer. Sometimes that's a great thing. And in the case of wanting things to remain workable and for lifting techniques, it is fantastic. But if I want things to dry naturally, which I do, it is maddening. But you know, you take what you can get. Now I'm adding a little bit of water to where the eye of the bird would be. I am not going to put the eye in this bird. But I do want to show that I know where the eye is on a cardinal, and all of that area was looking a bit too flat, a little boring, and so I wanted to mess it up just a little bit. Being intentionally messy. Right, and then just spattering a little bit of red into this background. Because that area is wet, those drops will diffuse. But I wasn't liking how stark it was. I felt it was pulling attention away from my cardinals, so I added more water. And that's fine because I did want more color. And I wanted a little more texture. It was too much. Wash away the sins with a little bit of clean water. Okay, disclaimer, they aren't sins. Don't worry about it. I was trying to be funny. I am funny. And at this point, I'm just fiddling with my background. Don't fiddle too much. Fiddling usually isn't good. The only reason I'm continuing to go is I'm looking at the composition. How do I want it to flow? Do I want it in a straight line? Do I want things to curve? And so I was just paying attention to the shape of the composition. But anyway, there's the finished painting. And if you like this video, press that like button. And if you want to see more, subscribe because I make videos every Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.